What's going on, y'all? Attorney Tom here, back with Spamuary, where I'm attempting to make a video every single day. In today's video, I'm going to be reacting to Dark Records' video titled The Poop Cruise from Hell Carnival Triumph Fire 2013. We're going to react, and I'm going to tell you whether or not I think the victims have a case. As many of y'all know, I'm based out of Houston, Texas. Houston has the Port of Houston, so there is a lot of maritime injury work. I've done my fair share of maritime cases. It's fascinating. Maritime law is extremely interesting. Let's jump straight into it.
Attorney Tom.
When you think of everything that could go wrong on a cruise liner, I bet being asked to poop in a biohazard bag falls pretty low on that list. But for more than 3,000 passengers aboard the Carnival Triumph, that became a daily reality. Feces-covered walls, food fights, and a sprawling tent city on the decks earned the cruise its infamous name, the Poop Cruise from Hell.
Already, this sounds terrible. You couldn't pay me to go on a cruise, let alone the Poop Cruise from Hell. I don't take sponsors. The only thing I ask is that if you need a lawyer, contact my team for a free consultation. While most people know me as a catastrophic personal injury lawyer, I'm actually a partner at 2 law firms that handle way more than just catastrophic injury. If you were the victim of securities fraud, received a notification that your info was included in a data breach, developed cancer as a result of a bad drug or toxic exposure, and many other situations, we may be able to help. It's important you talk to a lawyer right away to understand your options. If your case is not the best fit with us, we can help you find a great lawyer by using our national network of attorneys. Please click the link down below for a free consultation.
The Triumph is the length of 3 football fields, boasts 13 decks with 4 swimming pools, 7 whirlpools, and a massive casino floor. The Triumph set sail from Galveston, Texas for the Gulf of Mexico on Thursday, February.
All right, Texas getting represented. Now, I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about jurisdiction. Now, traditionally, jurisdiction in maritime cases is actually very complicated. You need to, 1, understand where the injury happened. Did it happen in open waters? And if it did, traditionally, the only jurisdiction that was appropriate was where the ship had its flag flown from. So usually that's some obscure country like Georgia, the country of Georgia, not the state. I'm not going to go into it. That's not really the case anymore. Then your very next intuition says, okay, this is coming out of Galveston, so any lawsuit that's going to be filed is probably going to be in Texas, but that's also not true because unlike a normal injury, like let's just say you were in a car accident, okay? You're in a car accident, probably the appropriate venue is where the car accident happened. So if the car accident happened in Galveston, you're probably going to sue in Galveston. However, in order to get on a cruise ship, you have to buy a ticket. That ticket comes with a contract, those terms and conditions, more likely than not, because every cruise ship that I've seen, at least the major carriers, have a condition that you have to go and sue in Miami. Well, technically in Florida, it's usually Miami because that's where the headquarters are located. So keep that in mind. And also, it's important to note that, and I'm sorry for rambling, it's important to note that these contracts usually have a limited statute of limitation. So you can only bring your case within 1 year of it happening. Usually it's at least 2 years. And you are going to have to sue in federal court. You're going to have to sue in federal court. So let's keep going.
February 7th, 2013, for what was thought to be a 4-day cruise. The highlight of the cruise was set to be a stop in Cozumel, Mexico. Here, passengers could disembark, frolic in azure waters, shop to their heart's delight, and return for a night of festive on-board activities. In reality, after departing Cozumel for the return trip to Galveston, the cruise took a turn for the worse. In the early hours of Sunday, February 10th, a fire alarm echoed through the ship. The Alpha Team announcement, the code used for a fire emergency aboard Carnival vessels, left many holidaymakers panicked. Guests on the first and second decks opened their doors to find smoke-filled hallways. Chaos broke out, with passengers scrambling for life jackets and frantically searching for friends and loved ones. On the top deck, black smoke was billowing from the smokestack. While the announcements called for calm, guests were left in the dark about the extent of the fire.
Folks, there's no need to be alarmist. stations, we do ask at this time that you do proceed back to your staterooms, back to your cabins. As I say, there is a situation in the engine control room, in the engine room, but it being...
This is actually pretty interesting. I remember watching a video on the Costa Concordia, I think that's how you say it, the cruise ship that turned over in Italy, and effectively the crew did the same thing. They said, hey, there's no need to go to your muster stations, but that was objectively not true. So I don't know about you. One, I don't think you'll ever see me on a cruise, but if anything like this is happening, I'm going to be standing next to the muster station. Of course, if you actually do need the muster station, this is additional liability facts that you are going to use in your case.
Soon after the initial announcement, the ship's lights flickered before it lost all power except for the emergency lights. The blaze, which was contained in the engine room through an automatic fire suppression system, was reportedly quelled by 6:08 a.m.
So that's good that they had a working automatic fire suppression system, right? That is the point of having such system. But as the lawyer here, you're going to want to know a few things. Why did this happen? Was this a known issue with the engine? Did the engine get scheduled maintenance? If it did get scheduled maintenance, who was performing the maintenance? Was it negligent maintenance? Why did this happen? Was it a failure of a third-party product? What is going on here?
Unfortunately, the fire had knocked out most of the ship's power and disabled the propulsion system, leaving the 3,143 passengers and close to 1,100 staff stranded in the Gulf of...
Okay, something that's also very interesting to note is that the 1,100 staff on board likely might have a claim as well. Now, if they do have a claim, they might have different remedies available. For instance, it's possible that they might be able to sue under the Jones Act. Now, the Jones Act only applies to seamen, so you'd have to have a classification that you are a seaman, and it's very foreseeable that if you were, let's just say, an entertainer on the cruise and you sued under the Jones Act, the defense to that would be, hey, this entertainer is not a seaman under the purposes of the Jones Act because they were an entertainer and had nothing to do with the maintenance or operation of the vessel. But that can be disputed, and that's probably going to be on a case-by-case basis. That's just, again, something to note.
There was a plan. 2 tugboats set course for the stricken vessel to tow it to the nearest port of Progreso, Mexico. Passengers breathed a sigh of relief and started taking off their life vests. Docking by Tuesday, they were told. By mid-morning on Sunday, passengers realized it wasn't just the propulsion system that died. The air conditioning, running water, elevators, and, worst of all, the septic system had also failed. That's when the cruise director delivered a message that left passengers horrified.
We're going to deliver some red bags to your cabins, to the bathrooms if you can. If you need to do a number 2, you need to poop, please do it in the red bag and drop it off in the bins, in the corridors. And if you need to do a number 1, that's a wee, please do it in the shower. Thank you, folks, and I'll be back with any more updated info.
This announcement came when toilets were already clogged due to lack of flushing facilities in the private cabins and public restrooms. The Triumph stabilizers also took a hit from the fire, causing the vessel to list heavily. Passengers reported clutching walls to keep their balance. But worst of all, toilets overflowed and spilled into halls, seeping through walls to floors each time the ship tilted.
There is not enough money in the world for me to have to endure that.
With temperatures soaring and the foul stench of human waste permeating the cabin decks, many guests dragged their mattresses to outside decks to escape the odors and sweltering heat. Soon, images of what would become known as Tent City flooded news channels as passengers started using bed sheets, towels, and rope to construct makeshift accommodations on the tanning deck. In a bold attempt to quell the passengers' mounting frustrations, Carnival decided to host an open bar, offering free beer and wine after the fire.
Do they really think the open bar is going to help? You're just going to get a drunk, angry people.
The bar service was to run from afternoon until midnight, but turned out to be a terrible decision. With drinks flowing freely, several passengers became obnoxious and intoxicated. By Tuesday morning, when both tugboats finally arrived, the vessel had drifted more than 90 miles north, meaning that Progresso was no longer the closest port. The decision was made to tow the 102,000-ton behemoth to Mobile, Alabama, adding another 2 days to their journey. On the bright side, returning to the U.S. would ease re-entry for the 900 passengers traveling without passports. However, the added delay risked one passenger's life. Rachel Alderet, urgently requiring dialysis, became the first of only 2 people evacuated by the Coast Guard.
Yeah, so let's just give the hypothetical and let's just say that she did pass away. This would absolutely be a wrongful death case that a lawyer would take, because it's not only the fact that the ship is breaking down, but you have to have contingency plans that if it breaks down, you can reasonably get people to safety in a reasonable amount of time. And it doesn't sound like they're doing a very good job.
Conditions on board rapidly deteriorated during that time, and food was reportedly running out. Dwindling food supplies forced passengers to queue for hours for cold onion and cucumber sandwiches. One passenger described scenes reminiscent of the Hunger Games as fights erupted over dwindling provisions. The tugboats, clearly lacking the muscle to pull a ship of Triumph's size adequately, only managed a leisurely pace of about 5 miles per hour. Naturally, it didn't help that the tow line snapped several times during the process. On Wednesday, February 13th, Tent City had to be dismantled to make way for an incoming chopper delivering much-needed supplies and equipment. By Thursday, the mood aboard seemed to get a little lighter after the food drop and the arrival of a generator that promised the luxury of hot meals. By this time, sanitary facilities were restored to parts of the ship, and passengers had access to power outlets to charge their cell phones. For many passengers, staying in contact with loved ones had been a battle.
You see here it says a lot of stuff was ruined by leakage. Yeah, I mean, obviously, the property damage is very, very minor compared to the mental anguish that they went through, but absolutely you would, I'm sure lawyers jumped all over this and tried to get these poor people compensated for every little thing that happened.
In Mobile, worried family and friends gathered at the port, anxiously awaiting the first glimpses of the Triumph and their loved ones. The Triumph was the largest cruise ship ever to dock at Mobile, and its final leg into the port required more than 6 grueling hours of careful nighttime maneuvering as 4 tugboats ushered it up a 30-mile ship channel across the shallow bay.
Can you imagine being so close to shore, yet you can't get off because they're having to go so slowly?
The passengers finally started disembarking at about 10 p.m. on Thursday. Carnival CEO Gary Cahill was among the many waiting at the port. He thanked the crew on board the vessel for their tireless efforts to keep the passengers comfortable and apologized to everyone for the situation. But there was still more trouble in store for the passengers. In the Carnival ticket's small print, the cruise line added a protection clause. If the performance of the proposed voyage is hindered or prevented by breakdown of the vessel, Carnival may cancel the proposed voyage without liability to refund passage.
Okay. This doesn't surprise me at all, right? Doesn't surprise me at all. But if I'm a victim here, I think the refund of the actual ticket is not what I'm concerned about. I want to make you pay for what you just made me go through, right?
Despite this, each passenger received $500, a free flight home, a full refund for their trip, and reimbursed most expenses on board, as well as a full credit for another cruise.
Really? You really think you want another credit for another cruise? Also, I'd be interested to know if accepting that money was on condition of waiving your claim against them.
This didn't stop passengers from filing a slew of lawsuits within hours of reaching land. However, their chances of claiming compensation were slim to none unless they suffered a personal injury. Carnival ended up awarding $118,500 in damages to 27 passengers for doctors and hospital costs related to the ill-fated cruise.
So I Googled what happened to the Carnival poop crew suit, and here's an article from 2018. It says the 11th Circuit dumps Carnival passenger suit over poop cruise. The 11th Circuit on Tuesday tossed a suit brought by more than 100 former passengers of the Carnival Triumph who were stranded at sea for 5 days in 2013 in an incident known as the poop cruise, saying that passengers' tickets contract required notice of personal injury claims within 185 days. Wow, I've never seen one that short. Every time I've seen one, it's been a year. In a unanimous, unpublished opinion, a 3-judge 11th Circuit panel affirmed the dismissal of the suit bought by Cynthia Davis and others, accusing Carnival Corporation, marine engineering contractors, Valsiums. Okay, so here was the contractor for the engine, more likely than not, of failing to properly maintain the ship's engines. Blah, blah, blah. We know. The panel said, in a provision in the ticket contract stated notice of personal injury claims must be given to an offending party within 185 days, which the plaintiff failed to do, even though they were timely served by Carnival itself with a notice of claims. Okay, so, yeah, the $180,000, I don't know where they're getting this from. It seems very low. It seems like that was probably just the fixed medical expenses, but it sounds like the victims of this really just failed to file timely rather than actually have their claims adjudicated. Because in my opinion, the mental anguish, pain and suffering, the damages, the personal injury, it's worth a lot more than just this amount of money. And homeboy, Mr. I'm going to apologize, they hired a legal team. This happens time and time again. He actually is not really willing to take responsibility rather than just, hide behind the law. So that's cool. Not really. All right, that's it for today's video. Bye.